From the Kessler Theater in Dallas, WFAA presents The Panel with Jonah Javad, a Mother's Day special on WFAA+.
They are the moms to some of the premier athletes in professional sports, here to share stories about motherhood and how young parents can help set their children up for success. Welcome to The Panel. I'm Jonah Javad. Let's meet the moms.
Hi, I'm Chris Spieth, mother of Ellen, Stephen, and professional golfer Jordan Spieth.
One of the epic performances.
Hi, I'm Denise Maxey, mom to Kiera, Celia, Denasia, and professional basketball player Tyrese Maxey.
Maxey fires! He's got it!
Hi, I'm Mercedes Robertson. I'm mom to Michael Robertson, Brianne Robertson, who is a retired jiu-jitsu fighter, and Nick Robertson, who plays for Toronto Maple Leafs, and Jason Robertson, who plays for Dallas Stars.
Backdoor score by Robertson.
Hi, I'm Lori Witt, mother to Nicole, Kiana, Shaylee, and my youngest Bobby Witt Jr., who plays professional baseball for the Kansas City Royals.
Bobby Witt Jr. has an inside the park home run.
Hi, my name is Ann Shaw. I am the mother of Liz, Landon, and professional soccer player Jaedyn Shaw.
Played in here for Jaedyn Shaw on the edge of the box. Jaedyn Shaw has the goal.
My name is Jamie Smith. I am the mother of Jaxon Smith-Njigba and professional football player Jaxon Smith-Njigba.
It is caught! Touchdown, Smith-Njigba!
Thank you all for being here. Jamie, when I reached out about this and to see if you wanted to be on the panel, you responded to me, heck yes. I don't know if it was in all caps, but it was something along those lines. Why was that?
I am just as impressed to meet you guys. You know, we are in a different kind of category, and it's hard to find moms, even on teams that you have spent so much time with. There's still a difference at this level, I feel. And I think that we can relate to the highs and the lows of the profession.
Tyrese has had a ball in his hand since he was born. The minute we brought him home from the hospital, my husband literally gave him a plush ball and started pretending as though he was shooting the ball into a hoop. So I've got footage of him running around, dribbling the ball behind his back, between his legs, as young as probably 4.
You said there was no roadmap for this before we got filming here. That seems like it's universal.
I had a different roadmap because my son Jordan played every sport. He did not, whatever the season was, if it was soccer season, if it was basketball season, it was baseball season, golf was in between only because his dad would take him and his brother to the driving range to get him out of my hair. We like to keep him busy. And so in the summer, he'd pick up the golf. So he didn't actually start really concentrating on golf till about 11 or 12 years old.
What is one thing you would go back and tell that younger version of yourself as they get started on this journey?
For as moms, as wives, particularly athletic children, we tend to put ourselves in the back, and we don't take care of ourselves. We don't take care of our mental needs. We don't take care of our physical needs. And what I have learned is there has to be a balance there. And so now, if I had to tell my younger self something when I first got married and started having children, it's to Denise, take care of you too. But we tend to do that. And that's what I felt like. So this time, at this point in my life, I've had to kind of take a step back and say, okay, Denise, you've got to take care of yourself. And we don't. So that's what I would tell any young mother in this position where her child or children are trending in that direction to be a professional athlete.
What does that mean exactly, that self-care as a mom? What are some examples that maybe others could draw from?
For me, I second what she says. You know, you get into this rut where you're running 100 miles an hour, trying to get them here, trying to get them there. You're traveling all over the place. Just in the marriage, make sure not only are you self-caring yourself, but you're including your spouse. You're making sure that, you know what, date night every 2 weeks. You have to have that downtime to re-engage, because you can run this race 100 miles an hour, and the next thing you know, your spouse is like your partner. Okay, you go here, I'll go here, and you do this and I'll do that. But it really takes that love within to nourish the whole athlete. That athlete cannot see, mom over here doing everything and dad over there doing everything. It really takes the whole village, the whole unit to make it work.
everyone in our house had a role. You know, my husband and I moved our moms in, and to help us because we were all over the place, but we also had to work. He was an educator and a coach, and he was Tyrese's trainer. I worked in corporate America. So we brought our moms in and say, hey, we got 3 other children here. Is there any way you guys can come in and help out? Awesome. And you know, all the kids, sometimes they want to travel with us to a tournament, but we didn't think it was fair. We had to drag them to the tournaments as well. So, you know, it's just, you got to put a structure in place. You have to put a structure in place. But like I said, it's just, it has to make sense. And so when you say self-care, take care of yourself, it's just what it means to you. Maybe it means to take a break and read a book. And maybe it means that day you just need a bump bath. Maybe you just need an hour to yourself, whatever that is. And she's right. Don't forget about your spouse, because you get so involved. And a lot of times there are situations where you have to divide and conquer. You've got multiple children doing multiple things. You do have to divide and conquer. So it's important that you keep that family structure, that you keep that love, and you keep that sense of balance around you.
My husband couldn't stay home and help me. He went to spring training and was gone in February, and you know, this and that, but we made it work, and we traveled a lot. And like I finally, once I had 3 children, hired somebody to help me so I could go see my husband. I could spend time with him, and I would take, you know, a lot of different moving parts, but you kind of make it work. You work all together. And I hope my girls don't ever think that they were second, but you know, they have their own husbands and children, and I babysit when I'm home, and you know, and I love the kids. They're fun. Grandkids are the best.
I'm just reminded too, when you're saying divide and conquer, we were really from Los Angeles, and we moved to Michigan, where my husband's from. That's where they got the kind of like the hockey exposure from, you know, hockey town, Detroit. And, you know, we talk about kind of like the journey or what our plans are for them. And sometimes I'd wake up and he'd say, I just traded you. I'm like, what do you mean? Because you're taking the 2 boys to Toronto, and you're going to stay there for the season.
That's funny.
And I'm like, okay. So I get up and I live in Toronto while my other 2 kids are still back in Michigan. And we have this running joke, well, I'll meet you at exit 25. So what happened was he would be coming from Michigan. I'm coming from Toronto. There's a halfway point, exit 25. I'll see you there. We'll meet at a Timmy's.
I love that.
That's right.
Yeah,
And just spend, you know, an hour or 2 just to relax. And I'm like, okay, see you later. Gotta go. You know? So even though, you know, those are our date nights, the 2 hours. And that was the best we can do. And
you look forward to it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, it's your story. It's your love story.
What's funny is for Christmas, you know, of course I have a husband where it's so hard to get a gift, right? So what I did is in the dead of winter, I go to the side, I go over, I think it's like a 3-foot embankment of ice, of snow. I walk in, I take a picture of exit 25, and I framed it for him. So we look at it often and like, oh my gosh, it's almost like a different life, doesn't it seem like? It's like it's somebody else's life that lived it, that organized chaos, that we, you know, and I think the most important is just within that organized chaos, kind of like pick a few moments to make it all make sense and worth the journey, and then just, you know, keep forward and just enjoy it now. Now I get to enjoy it in the stands and not worry about the equipment, you know, breaking, because you know, as you know, well, those sticks, that the gear is not cheap. So I'm just glad somebody else, somebody else is responsible to make sure it's there, and someone's, you know, washing his gear, which thank goodness, because or else he'll let it marinate in the hockey bag.
Oh, the backpacks. Oh my gosh.
Oh yes.
Oh my gosh.
Right, and they put it right back on like it's okay. I'm like,
The shoes, the backpacks. Soccer shoes in that bag. Something was smelling in the car. And it was like,
they don't even come in the house. You leave them out.
I was always challenged to find the best washing detergent to try to get the smell out of different things like the clothing. And there were times like, just forget it. I'm just gonna throw that away. We'll start over. But the backpacks was
it was,
open it up, and I didn't know what to expect.
That's a long time.
I don't know if I think I probably, as I'm listening to you guys talk, I'm probably still struggling with that balance. But I think it kind of works for me to not be balanced, to kind of be able to roll with what's happening, you know, try not to overly plan what's happening, especially with kids in multiple sports and in multiple journeys. And being such a young mom, it was just like, you're so caught up in the sacrifice of how am I going to pay for this? How am I going to get them there? And I'm so fortunate for the great teammates that we have, the connections, the families that were there. You know, that's who you celebrate your holidays with.
And just like your kids, I mean, Jordan was 19 when he turned pro. He moved out of the house. He's like, I can't live with you guys if I'm a professional. I have my own money. And so he moved into a high-rise downtown here in Dallas. And 4 months later said, get me out of here, Mom. I can't get in and out of here with golf clubs.
Oh my gosh.
And so then he moved somewhere else and then somewhere else. And now, you know, but always like, he's always lived within 2 or 3 miles of us.
Oh my gosh, it's so good to hear that someone else's son said, oh, I want the biggest high rise. And I said, okay, sure, Tyrese. Get you the biggest high rise. And 4 months later, Mom, I can't stand it.
I'll have to remind myself, like, I'm in his home. So it's time for Mama will leave right now before I, you know, freak out.
But I feel with my daughter, sometimes it allows her to take herself out of that pro life and be a human. If I'm like, girl, what, you know, and I'm at it with her, it kind of gives her that sense of, okay, I'm still human.
She's just
human.
normal.
You know, and my expectation here is that I'm just your daughter, you know, and so it does allow them, when I treat her like a normal, you know, my normal daughter, it just gives her, sometimes I feel like she wouldn't say it, but just a sense of relief. Like, I don't have to deal with these cameras. I don't have to deal with this media. I don't have to deal with all these expectations of me. You know, I can just be your daughter.
What a moment for Jaedyn Shaw!
Hey Mom, happy Mother's Day. I just want to say that I appreciate you so much, all the time and energy that you put into making me the best version of myself that I could possibly be, and everything that you do just like never goes unnoticed, and I couldn't ask for a better mom. So happy Mother's Day. I love you so much.
Shot fires, go! The Frisco Kid has scored! 2-1 U.S.
What are some things like young moms and young parents should know kind of as they see their kid is a little bit better than the rest? And listen, I know there are a lot of parents out there, all of them think their son is the greatest.
They're not.
But when you kind of recognize it, how do you kind of foster it? And then on top of that, how do you keep away the vultures that are going to come flying in to try to, you know, make money off of your child or try to profit in some way?
That is the hardest thing. And I will say, I mean, my husband was really good at this with Jordan and his brother. From the time, I mean, we didn't know because he played every other sport and only played golf when he could until we started intermittent. He wanted to give up football going into 7th grade. I said, fine, you don't want to play something, you don't have to. It was just a little parochial school football, but at the time that was a big deal. You know, he was the quarterback.
In Texas?
It's Texas.
In Texas.
In Texas. And he was athletic, but so was a whole bunch of boys in his class. He had a very, very athletic high school class. Josh Bell was in his graduating class in high school, and we all know him. And he had like tons of D1, every sport you can imagine. So it was very competitive in high school. And he was on competitive basketball and baseball and everything else. But when it came time to choose to give it up, my husband played baseball only through college, but he would have loved to play further than that, but he didn't. And that was hard for Jordan to tell his dad he was giving up baseball. He did, but it was really hard for him to tell. Going into 8th grade, I got to give up because I'm winning these tournaments and I need a coach. Well, you need a coach. You know how expensive that is for a golf coach? And he goes, yeah, I need a coach. And we found him. He's still with the same coach, 12, 13 years later.
That's great.
And yeah, he's great. He's here in Dallas.
So he was how old when he got a coach for golf?
12.
12. Wow. Okay. Well, then he was serious.
But you still don't know. I mean, you don't know when he leaves college after a year. You don't know. You don't know.
Yes.
You still don't know.
I think any parent that says, oh, I knew at that age, I would be like, I don't know, because we felt like, okay, we saw that he was talented, right? But you still don't really know. And we've had that question asked a number of times. I guess parents still think and I think people think it's a thing that you know. And we've had that question a lot of times. So the way we frame it, my husband and I both, is when did you know that Tyrese was serious? When did you know he was serious? And then we give a couple of examples of things that he did that showed his over competitiveness. And okay, now we think he's serious, and now he may have a shot. But as far as answering the question, did we know? No, I didn't. I can't tell you what I saw him at 4 bouncing the ball like that and dribbling behind his back. I can't say, oh yeah, he's definitely going to be a pro. Now my husband does have a joke, and I'm gonna have to say this for him, but he does have a joke. He said, hey, you know, I'm 5'7". My husband's about 5'9", 5'10". I'll give him 5'10". So he said, hey, if our son is at least 6'2", 6'3", I'm going to make him a pro. Right? Oh. Now that's what he says. And so now that he has become a pro, he says, see, I told you that if you just give me that. So that's the joke. Well, I'll say that. He's 6'2". Okay. He's 6'2". Okay. And so my husband says, okay, I told you if you give me a son and he's that height, I'm going to make him a pro. So he predicted it. Okay, so he did do that. I'll give him that. But as far as do you know, I don't think you know. And keeping the vultures away is the hardest thing to do. Very hard. You have to keep your circle so tight because once that child is identified as a possible professional athlete, they are coming. They are coming and they are going to do everything they possibly can to either divide the family or they're trying to get into that child's ear. But we were very, very specific with everyone around us. You do not go to our son. If you contact our son, then you are out. That was for coaches. That was for AAU people. You come directly to me or my husband. You do not contact our son. And when he was in college, we kept away the agents. Even leading up to making a decision for college, we kept away the coaches. We set time frames when he could talk to a coach. We told the coach time frames that they could talk to him. So you have to really work very hard at keeping that circle very tight and set the boundaries of what makes sense for you and your family.
How do you kind of instill that, you know, mindset in them to, I should probably not engage with them? And is there anything you can do? I think it's a function of how they grew up. I mean, I didn't have. I mean, I don't remember having to tell my son to not go to a meeting, or my husband tell him don't go to a meeting without me, kind of thing. He just knew. He didn't want to be there. There's a level of awareness. There's a level of awareness very young. They grow up very young. I mean, I always joke that we think my son was 40 years old at 10. He's always been that kind of kid.
But the hardest part was they come out with rankings in high school, and he got ranked. He got ranked early, #1 high school, and so every game. And we have 2 schools in our school. I mean, you probably remember this. And they'd be yelling overrated. I mean, they would. It's the parents of that high school and everything. Now it bothered me. I'm like, it bothered his sisters. Bobby Jr. said it didn't bother him, but it was a lot.
Did he just file that away for, you know, to get them back one day or something, prove them wrong?
I don't think he'd be the kid that would ever say that, because I know we were playing the high school rival and they're overrated, and he did hit a home run, really, and there was a bunch of Kansas City general managers and everybody were there. And so
we'll remind that team of that for the rest of their lives. He did get a home run.
He did. He did. You know. Anyway, it was didn't bother him as much as it really did bother me, seeing other parents being really not nice to a high school because they're ranked. In that, even a grandmother one time at a playoff game said to my daughter, "I hope he strikes out. He's not good. He's overrated." To my daughter. And she was just like, what? To his sister. And she was really like, why would you even be so mean to a young kid?
And out on the golf course, if, you know, one bad shot and you're in a crowd, it's crowded. And, you know, the armchair quarterbacks are saying, well, he's horrible. What do people say? You know, and I remember a friend of mine, we were at a tournament in Houston, and he was 19 years old. And we're sitting in the bleachers, and I'm not feeling good, and my daughter's with me, so I've got to keep her quiet. And Jordan was going to miss the cut, but he was still playing, but we knew he was, you know, off the cut line. And there were 2 guys sitting behind us, and my friend Courtney, I'll say her name, they had been talking about the group that came up before ours, and just negative about whatever golfers came up to that green, those 3 golfers that came up. And then I guess when Jordan hit the ball up, he missed the green, and they started. They didn't know who I was. They didn't know who we were. We just went and sat in the bleachers. And he was ranked at that point 21st in the nation, but he just turned pro, not too much before that. And I had to get up and leave. I got up and left with my daughter, and we left the bleachers, and my friend Courtney turned around and she said, "You two need to be aware of who's around you."
Yeah.
And that was his mother and his sister sitting right in front of you, and all you could do is be negative about it, and they were like horrified, but they learned a lesson. Like, it's a sport of honor, and it's a sport, all of the sports, they all are. Nobody should be treated that way. The players shouldn't, the parents shouldn't, the siblings shouldn't.
I think the stress of having that ranking made me to not even be able to be happy or cheer or, you can't really talk about it because you don't want them to be like, and I was,
you have to grow
again, I never knew because professional baseball, there's a lot of years in the minor leagues, there's a lot of things, and the work ethic, the competitive spirit, all the things other than talent was there that I could see being a mom, that he just had to make sure work on consistent and mental health and recovery, and that
mental health is important too.
Mental health is important, and to your point, yes, they do. Parents, and I was never that parent. I couldn't take it when to even just hear other parents say bad things about your child. It just feels so. It's horrifying.
Personal.
Yes, and there were a couple times I did have to say something back. It just depends. Not anymore. But there have been a couple times that if they're in her situation where they're sitting right behind me, and I will whip my head around and say, "Okay, that's my son, so I'm going to warn you first." And then, but what has helped my son, it had helped him to grow some thick skin too. But it is mental health. I did have to talk to him. Hey, are you okay? What are you thinking? Because it's hurtful to hear the crowd yelling, overrated. Now, what it did do is a lot of times they started saying, don't say that to him, because when you say that, it's going to make him better. Yes, it is going to propel him. And so they're like, don't make him mad, because if you say those things now, he's really going to try to dominate you on the court. So that's how he kind of changed it around. But you're right, it's difficult. You can't really enjoy the success at the high school level because you're afraid. You're afraid of what other parents are going to think. You're afraid of putting too much pressure on your child. There's a lot of things, like when the rankings would come out, I'm like, oh my gosh, she's ranked here, but you can't really say anything. My husband and I would just talk about it behind closed doors because we didn't want anyone to be offended. Our friends around us that were in the same situations, if their sons weren't ranked where he was, we didn't want anyone to be offended, so we never said anything.
Well, I think what's important is how they grew up and how they kind of looked at you and how you dealt with situations like that. Because for hockey, Jason left when he was 16, and he lived in Canada, near just past Toronto, at 16. And I'm going, I hope he did a good job that he can take care of himself, obviously. But I think what's the most important is that they know they can still come to you with any questions and still feel protected to some degree. I think that's the most important.
The biggest advice I give to parents now that talk to me and I've known for a while, their daughters are a couple years younger, is, as vigorously we attack training schedules, we attack games, we need to attack faith as well. That is the number one thing that has really helped my family through this whole journey. It sustains her now as a 20-year-old young lady. This journey is, you talk about the vultures that come after you and all that. I mean, when they stay in faith, when you stay strong in your faith, you're protected by all that. Your perspective of those kind of things aren't as brutal as if you're trying to make your own decisions. If you're trying to, everything that she's decided on, she does. Anything that comes through, after her, she dives right into her faith, because that right there really is what guides every single thing. We're all sitting here because God gave us the grace to have a child, to hone that blessing of the extra that He's given us. And that's so important to me, to make sure I let everyone know that it was our faith that really carried us through and still carrying us through, and that's that's really
That is
the
great.
most important thing.
Yeah, it is. It's His grace, it's His mercy every single day that woke us up. And you're right.
The
to your point, the
protection.
protection, and so that actually is what kind of monitors that mental health.
Yes.
You know, making sure that they are staying true to their faith, making sure that they are, who they have said they're going to be, and what we've instilled in them as a young age. So you're right. It's their faith, it's their beliefs, it's their upbringing, and I think that helps just kind of start everything, but it helps them to stay true to where they are and help them get to the next level.
Down it goes. 2 more for Tyrese Maxey.
Yo, what's up? It's Tyrese Maxey here. Just want to give a shout out to all the moms out there. Happy Mother's Day. Big shout out to my mom, Miss Denise Maxey. I really do appreciate everything you do for me. I'm thankful for the way you have raised me, the way you supported me. You're my best friend, and I appreciate you, and I love you, and I hope you have a great Mother's Day.
Maxey flips it up, soft touch.
Well, for hockey games, especially with warm-ups, it's a little bit different maybe for other sports because you can go up against the glass during warm-ups, see their faces really up close. And I remember my mom, she's 90 now, and during warm-up, she's knocking, Jason. And I'm like, Mom, he's working. He's working now, Mom. Oh, okay. So that's almost like my go-to. He's working. He's working right now. Whether it be pre-game, the night before, it's all part of work. It's all part of the preparation. And I think that's, once you put on that suit to go to warm-ups, you're at work. It's not only that it's an individual sacrifice for our players, but also it's a family sacrifice. It's really a family commitment. And even though my daughter, who, I had 4 kids in 4 years, so they're all really dragged around, and she was there for the practices, for the games as a young child, but she may not have been a real rink rat and just running around, but you don't realize it, but they are learning the commitment involved. So when it was her turn, in a sense, when she found her passion, whether she was into acting a little bit, and then she's 25, but she was a professional jiu-jitsu fighter. So she really understood the commitment involved and the timing and the preparation. So to her, it wasn't as foreign. And even though she wasn't doing it with her brothers, she understood the commitment involved. And that you can't really teach that. You can't sit down and say, okay, this is what you need to do. It's all almost like in the background. They kind of understand.
They don't even know anything different. I mean, it becomes a lifestyle.
Right.
It's my lifestyle.
Yeah. And in our case, we had a golfer and we had a basketball player who, he went on to play in college and a couple years in Europe. So and especially his daughter at home, who's 8 years younger than Jordan. So we couldn't drag her. You can't, we couldn't. And so we divided and conquered. We had to divide and conquer. So my husband knew more about golf. I know nothing about golf. I'm just going to make that clear. Don't play it. Know nothing about it, even though I have a golfer. But I stayed back and did the AAU tournaments with my son and went to, all that with him because my daughter can take the noise. She just can't be on a golf course because she's unpredictable and you have to be quiet. And so we divided and conquered, and now we're all back together. Nobody left here.
How do you foster the emotional element to the siblings? Because you have this, one kid or maybe 2 kids who are going to the professional level, and they're really just on a rocket ship, it seems like. But you've got all these other kids who are, quote unquote, normal kids, and have a normal way of life. How do you?
You have to be there for all of them. She hit the nail on the head when she said, when they find their niche, right? Or their passion. So we encourage each one of them, what is it that you like to do? And you have to support it. You have to support it to the fullest, just like you supported the other children. So it's not the easiest journey, but each child, they have their own unique thing. And once they figure it out, you just nurture and support that as well.
Are there moments of jealousy between the siblings or sibling rivalry? I don't know.
Well, I have 3 daughters, which happen to all marry professional baseball players. Not on purpose. Not on purpose. So Bobby Jr. would go up to Oklahoma to the football games and be waiting for the little wrist guards for the football team. My sister's Kiki, my sister's Shelly. He'd come back to the tailgate with a towel or a glove, he has a whole shoebox collection. So with that said, they support him because he was always there, but he was so proud of his sisters. Now sisters couldn't be more proud of him, but he also knows that I was that kid wanting an autograph, so he takes time to sign autographs. It's a lot, but again, it's a lot of other commitments to other things.
I think in our house, I mean, my boys are only a year apart. They're 2 grades apart, but they're only age-wise a year apart. And yes, they wrestled like crazy. Somebody was always in tears because they're boys, not over sports, but just, being brothers. But they are their biggest supporters today. And even through when my son was playing in college, Jordan, even though he was already playing professional golf at that point, because he turned pro at 19, he would make, or at least watch on the iPad. He broke an iPad one time because he was screaming at the refs on an iPad watching his brother play, screaming at the refs.
Well, and the
he
3
smashed an
brother-in-laws that played professional are very proud of Bobby Jr. too. They watched all the games.
And then they were humbled because of their sister. So it was always, no one was ever number one in our house. It was always her. If you walked into my house now, there are no golf trophies. There are no basketball trophies. It's just a house where 3 kids grew up.
In my house, I always remind my 3 kids that what Jaedyn playing soccer is what she does. It's not who she is.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we keep it that level and humble. I don't waver from the way I treat. I don't care if Jaedyn brought home millions and millions and millions. If she mouths off to me, she's gonna get popped, just like the little one. So they see it. They know that energy comes from me is equal to all of them. So, that's how we kind of keep the emotional flow in our house. This is what she does. It's not who she is.
I think you really is what's important is that we involved the other kids with what everybody else is doing. Not this is the schedule and that's it. I think that's the most important. You have to kind of foster it. You have to really nurture that bond, because that's kind of what's going to help them as adults when you're not around them daily.
But I do agree. No one's ever number one. No one's ever number one. Everyone's treated equally.
Exactly.
I agree with her. It doesn't matter what age they are. If they mouth off, they're going to get it.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't matter. And they see each other get disciplined in different ways. But it's just they're all treated fairly.
Yeah. I have 4 grandchildren. 1 on the way, but one he was born with a little bit of brain special, and he's the sweetest boy. Loves him to death, and just came up and grabbed his face and like he's really there, and he kissed him and Bobby Jr. said, that's what it's all about. He goes, he didn't care if I was over. He didn't care if we lost. He didn't care anything. All he cared was that he saw Uncle Jr. and got a baseball.
We have to tell our daughter all the time, she loves watching the Stars. They won. Because if you tell her they didn't, it's a whole thing. The Mavericks, the Cowboys, any Dallas sports. And her brother, how did Jordan do? Oh, he did great.
He won.
He did great.
I think my
Everything's
biggest
great.
accomplishment in life is giving my boys each other.
Yeah.
Hands down.
Oh, for sure.
I have never had to foster that relationship. It has been since birth.
Yeah.
That's great.
My oldest one is, he is his brother's keeper, hands down.
Awesome. Touchdown, Smith-Njigba.
Mom, happy Mother's Day. We love you so much.
Happy Mother's Day to the best mom. Thank you for everything that you do for us.
Full end zone touchdown. Jaxon Smith-Njigba's in the end zone.
There's so much travel involved in all of this, it seems. Like the frequent flyer miles in this room must be insane. But I'm thinking about it from your perspective, Ann, is you've got a daughter who is, and you're following her as she kind of goes on her journey.
Absolutely.
So you were in Frisco and then moved to San Diego. Now you're moving to North Carolina. And it's
we are definitely a wolf pack. We went through the whole journey together. And we just refuse to let her be, so to speak.
She's so young. I'm sure she loves
she's still young, everyone sees her as this big professional, 20-year-old, and she's accomplished so much, but Mama knows that soul, and I know she still needs us. So I definitely, we definitely decide, up until she really can handle it herself, we're here for her every step of the way.
So that was a challenge when you have multiple children. And in our case, 2 older daughters. Tyrese is now going into professional athlete at age 19, but then we have a younger daughter. So we kind of struggled with, do we move with him into the new city, or do we stay with our youngest daughter? It was a challenge. Did anyone else have any challenges like that with the younger?
We just always stayed in Dallas.
Well,
Well, a professional golfer can live anywhere.
Yeah.
Well,
And they live anywhere they
With
want.
me, all my kids are 10 years apart.
Oh, wow.
So
Oh, wow.
my son is 9 years younger than my daughter.
Oh, wow.
And he could not live away from her. Like he's, you know, just so excited to just get over there with her. So it was not hard for us. And he's, you know, he has his own journey. He's an amazing baseball player and growing to, you know, in the same journey she is with her work ethics and you know, that role model. And that's the number one thing for me too, is that I did not want that separation between them. He was too young. He was 7 when she went pro, 8 when she went pro. But our number one thing was being a family together. So, but for him, it's never a sacrifice for her. I mean, he just loves her absolutely so much, and that's her role model. So we never had to run into that issue of picking and choosing. Okay, he's so settled here. Do we need to stay here? He made the decision for us.
Nice.
It's kind of it's unique, and I wanted to ask you about this, Lori. So we've got the 5 other moms here. This is kind of your first go with a child who's a pro athlete and reaching that highest level, but you were married to a pro athlete. So do you feel like that might have given you some sort of, I don't know, insight into what it might be like to raise a pro ball player?
Well, when I had my daughters, my husband was still playing. Actually, when I had Bobby Jr., he was still playing. So he played for 16 years. So it was a lot of times you would, like, I think we were talking about how you meet other wives and other friends and you become really close and they became your, you know, helpers. And but my oldest daughter's 12 years older than Bobby Jr. So they were his biggest fan when he was going through stuff. But he was also drugged to their softball and their soccer and their cheer competitions. I mean, I think we went to 30 cheer competitions in Orlando, like between college and high school and competitive cheer and all that stuff. So
and Junior would just watch?
Junior loved it. He loved the co-ed, like, but he was not going to be a cheerleader. He played every sport in middle school up through freshman year. He would have throw the football, receive, dive in, ruin the couch, ruin the walls with the ball. So, but then high school, this is a funny story, he made varsity baseball as a freshman. So in May, when you make your schedule out, and he had played like the JV Black as a freshman the fall, and we walked into church and she goes, "Hey Mom, I made my schedule." I go, "Okay." And he goes, "But can you tell Dad I'm not playing football next year?" So he had to tell me to tell his dad. His dad goes, "Okay," because there's a lot of fall, like things you went to. So about missing, he got to miss his signing because he was in Panama playing for the USA and missed prom because they were in the state playoffs.
And Jordan missed his high school graduation because he was
graduation.
Byron Nelson.
Jackson did as well.
So you do miss a lot of things. Baseball's a long season, so you miss a lot of holidays. But I agree with you too. When we go to Boston, his grandparents get to see him. When he goes to, you know, he's in Kansas City, so it's not that far. We come to Texas, and there's always like 100 people going, and you know, so it's a lot of fun. Every city, there's usually somebody that supports them, family, friends. So it's
I'm
kind of
working
neat.
on finding balance with that, about everybody wanting to come and feeling that I have to go into host mode, and I'm trying to find balance with that as far as I'm a mom and I want to enjoy the game, and I'm getting better. Year 3, I think I'm ready to tell you to host yourself. You know?
And I don't know if anyone still, like I do, gets requests for their son's time. He's 31 years old. He's has a family with 2 kids. And so it's like, I don't control him. Here's his agent's number, but I still will get requests to come, do a charity event or be a honorary chair at this event or that event or whatever. And people don't understand that at their age, at 20, yes, we did protect him from a lot, and we traveled with them. And then there comes a point where they want to be their own person, and
I love this support, and I love for people to be
absolutely.
able to come. I think just finding burden, just for myself, just to be able to. I mean, I'm like, y'all know it's game day. I feel like I'm playing this game. I am catching that ball. Like I am hitting these people. I am whatever.
And you're hoping for them to not get hurt.
Yes, every play is like get up. As soon as you get up, that is like, oh, okay.
I honestly find that just setting those boundaries, just being honest with your family members, you know, because they want to be around her with, hey, let's go eat, because our families are foodies. So when we get together, we want to go to restaurants, we want to try the newest things. But, you know, just for example, her last game, a lot of the family members came to North Carolina, and I have to let them know that, you know, the day before the game, even 2 days before the game, she likes to be alone. She has a routine. She has certain foods she eats in the time frame she needs to eat it. She needs to go to cryo. We need to mind our own business and do our own thing. And then we come support her. And as soon as that whistle blows and everything's over, she's all ours. Yeah. But you can't, you know, I protect her by not worrying about how everyone else kind of feels of not getting her time. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because it's just the way.
It's a learning.
I think I agree with her. You know, Tyrese has a ritual too. You know, he doesn't like to talk before the games or the day of the game. So I do the same thing. If we have family members in town, I would let them know, hey, this is the downtime. This is the time. If you're in the house, you have to be quiet. But most of the time, I try to keep them away from the house.
That gave me an advantage by having a husband, already knowing that they get home from the game so late, that they're going to sleep in. You know, game day. My husband was a pitcher, my son's a hitter, so it's a little bit different. But it's a mental focus, and they have mental times, and they might have, if you, like, we'll go to Houston, we might see him for an hour for brunch, you know, then he goes to the field, they're at the field all day. We might see him for 30 minutes after the game. So you're on a road trip, but you really only see him for not very long, and there's not very many off days and things.
And he goes that way again. What row is this one going to land in?
Hey Mom, it's your favorite son here. I just want to wish you a happy Mother's Day. I'm so thankful for everything you've done for me throughout my whole life and what you continue to do for me. And I wouldn't be half the man I am today if it wasn't for all your love and support. I hope you have an amazing day, a very special day, and you deserve it. Happy Mother's Day. Love you.
Bobby destroys it. Deep left field. Wake on.
Hockey is so specialized though, right? I mean, and they have to leave sort of at a young age to go play some of those junior leagues. Is that tough? I mean, how do you kind of straddle that balance as a mom?
Well, you know, they started skating at age 5, and they finally, and then it had a first team at age 6, and they would go to tournaments. We lived in Los Angeles, so a lot of the times in the summers or the holidays, we wouldn't be home. And we would be in Toronto and Detroit. That's kind of like the life that you get used to. I stopped kind of explaining to other school families why we're not going to be home for the holidays, or how crazy we are to just, you know, pick up a child, take them to Toronto for the weekend and do a tournament and come back, and they got to go right back to school. And I think it's funny because my youngest Nick, when he was in kindergarten, you know, he's going to Detroit, he's going to Chicago, and during that time, he's meeting different people. He is in a situation where he doesn't know anybody on the team, and sometimes the coach doesn't even speak English. Wow. Maybe they speak French, so they're yelling at them, you know, in French. But he had to learn to just enter into a room and just deal with what's there and immediately play with players he's never seen before. And I think what they realize is that the importance of kind of just controlling what you can and make do with what you have available to you and just go with it. And I think a lot has to do with the passion that they have. You know, you as a parent, they have the passion, and, you know, you only hope that they continue it into the professional level. But a lot of times you had to remind them that they made a commitment for the year. You know, there's a lot of sacrifices that have to be made, not just individually, but also as a family. And you have to remind them as a parent, I'm not your best friend. You got to get up and go to 6 o'clock, you know, in the morning and just skate. And sometimes they're mad at you, you know, a lot of times they're mad at you. But luckily, the passion and their dream just kind of keeps them focused. And that's what our jobs as parents have to be.
I mean, I feel like the whole group, it's travel, right? It's sacrifice and travel and all
She
that.
made a good point. The point about, stop explaining to your family and friends, we're not going to be there for the holidays. We're not going to be there for the birthday parties.
It's also their sacrifices. They sacrifice, at the high school level, homecomings, proms. They sacrificed. Jordan sacrificed so much, but he wanted to do it. He was never forced to do it. That was the one thing he'll say too in interviews. He was always given a choice. You want to go to this invitational in New York, or do you want to stay home and go to homecoming with a girlfriend or friends or whatever? And he always chose golf.
Yeah, so did Tyrese. He always chose to do those tournaments, every weekend. It's tough because you are explaining to your friends and your family members, and you're saving up those vacation days because you got to use them for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, come back home Sunday night, get ready to go to work on Monday.
But if you remember, it's kind of like the very thing, their sport, that kept them away from family functions, weddings or holiday gatherings. For us, it's the very thing that brings everybody back together. So when they go back and go into town in Los Angeles, I'm able to call my family, my extended family. Hey, you want to watch, Jason? And of course they want to, but now they're exposed to a sport. They never really understood what we were doing. They just know we weren't going to be there.
It all makes sense now.
Right? Exactly. It's almost like a full circle, and I just think it's just nice that. As young professionals, they can still bring family together, and they can still be as close, if not closer.
Rips it, scores! Jason Robertson snuck it short side.
Hi, Mom. Just want to wish you a happy Mother's Day. I definitely wouldn't be here where I am without you and Dad. I love you so much. Happy Mother's Day to my grandma, too. She sees this, and I love you guys.
Nick Robertson has it poked away. He'll get it back. Turn, shoot, scores!
Kind of as they're on this journey, and there's all these different youth sports leagues and all these different camps and all these different trainers and coaches, how do you as parent decide, okay, we'll go with this, but we're not going to do this? How do we do this? How do you manage all of that? Because it just seems like a lot from the outside.
Jordan is very loyal. And so he has the same coach, the same financial people, but his dad really navigated a lot of that early on. He was already playing and winning all these junior golf tournaments around town. So then it became, now we're in the national rankings. I need a coach. So then he started asking around his dad, who do you think, because super competitive, like not really going to listen to anybody. I know more than you know kind of thing. And he did know more about golf than his own dad. His dad didn't play golf. And so they tried a coach, and he's still his coach today, 13 years later. And totally, he watched him grow up. I mean, he was 12 or 12 or 14 when he started with Cameron. And so he was through all the girlfriends and the, everything with them.
I was told at 13 that my husband was in charge of my son, because I had 3 daughters. We went competitive cheer. They quit the soccer, quit the softball. They ran track, but competitive cheer. And then he goes, "I've got Junior. Don't even tell me. I got it." So he got to do the hard stuff. I got to do the lovey mom stuff, making the French toast.
I always said I was always there on the course with the peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
That's right.
Same thing.
You hungry? Drink your Gatorade. Drink your drink.
That was my role.
That's what did everything. And I think that Jaxon, when it comes to being a professional athlete, I admire so much about him, and the way that you were describing Jordan, I trust him. I don't trust him with a lot of things, but I trust him in his professionalism. And he knew exactly what he wanted as a recruit in college, and we shut it down early. He had his mind made up. I gave him check marks of things that once I knew he was going to leave Texas, I was like, all right, you got to be near an airport. You have to be near high acute healthcare. But then to give him that power to make that decision. And I also feel very fortunate along our journey that I think we kind of missed the crazy cutoff of Little League Select, whatever. We had a very amazing experience with the Dallas Tigers with my oldest son. He played with them from 10 all the way until they graduated high school. Then Jaxon, same thing. And then we kind of dodged COVID at good timing, and then we kind of slid out of NIL at good timing. And I think a lot of timing matters. And I think that those two things really played a part in Jaxon's journey.
The money best spent along the way, up until they get to the pro level, I guess, and the money worst spent. If you can kind of remember, what do you regret spending money on, and whether it was some camp or some this or some that, and maybe something that you look back and you're like, I'm glad I did that. Is there something that comes to mind?
I spent 3 days going through drawers and jewelry. We've lived in our house 33 years. And those braided baseball necklaces, there was probably 45. I gave some to my grandson and got rid of some, and all the little plastic bands and the pins that they used to.
Oh, the pins.
I mean, the money you spent on the stuff that was fun as a mom doing a goodie bag. I'm looking back going, oh my gosh, even through the cheerleading days, the bows and the this and the that. But the things you kind of spent money on that meant so much at that time, there's a lot of excess of that. So that's one of my regret spendings is just really, I think I got as excited as he did. Oh, there's a new necklace. There's a new this.
I can think back. We spent a lot of money in traveling, and then we would end up in different states playing all Texas teams. I'm like, we could have done this in Dallas. I'm like, hey, everybody, again, here we are in North Carolina. Hey. There's a lot of talent here in Dallas, and I think that we've been fortunate to have great coaches around the boys, and it sounds like all of us, whether married or not married, I think that dads play a pivotal role.
Oh, for sure.
The money best spent was when Bobby Jr. played for the Team USA 18U, and we traveled to Panama. It was over Thanksgiving, and mind you, I have 3 daughters, and we started taking trips to Aruba for Thanksgiving just because it was college break and different things. So no trip to Aruba. One was in Kansas. One was actually she won a pharmaceutical trip. I think she was in England or Paris, and the other one went to a wedding. So we were all over the world, but we went to Panama where they got enlightened. And if you follow baseball, I don't know if you baseball, I know all the sports are international, but there's Venezuelan, Dominican, we played Panama, we played Peru, we played teams, and they're playing catch in the parking lot. There's no toilet paper, no hand sanitizer. It's the worst conditions. I know Bobby Jr., they were at one thing, his roommate got the bed bugs, and he got the chicken, and there were worms in the chicken.
Oh my God.
For a long time, he couldn't eat chicken and rice. But for my husband and I to see, what goes on in international, which because baseball isn't, it's
The
international
exposure.
now. Yeah. And then I have 2 son-in-laws, and my daughters both experienced Japan. So you get different experiences. But our money that week that we spent in Panama, just to see the other players and the teams, and Panama, they love their baseball, and they played in the championship, and it was just such a great
to understand the culture
culture of
and
how
tailgating culture. The best decision I made for Jaedyn was allowing her to train with some Argentinians and Brazilians in a sport called futsal is like playing soccer. It's 5-on-5 with a very small goal, but it's like playing soccer, basketball, but with your feet.
Okay? With no shoes.
And and the families that train that, they would take the kids to Brazil to train with national teams there. And I tailgated culture because with her being able to go over there like at 9 and 10, she was able to really see the culture, feel the culture, and see the lack over there. They in Brazil, they have a place called the favela, which is what the name they call the ghettos of Brazil. And one of her trainers there built a futsal court up in the mountains in the favela, and she would go with her up there, train with all the kids that didn't have much, give them snacks and all that. And she experienced that and absorbed that type of culture when she was like 9-10 years old. So she still really hones that piece of her that she witnessed back there, and she does all she can to try to give back now. You know, that's why she's always giving her shoes out and you know, constantly doing something for the fans. You know, those because you don't know where they come from. But
speaking of that in the baseball, I probably have spent way too much money on metal bats. Speaking of culture, I am over Americans batting with metal bats. I am over that.
You're gonna stick it.
You don't like the ping?
As we have, I'm like, how did I listen to ping, ping, ping for all those years? Now it's like,
yeah.
Because you go and you see and you're playing with Latin, you know, all the Latin countries, and I'm like, well, what are we doing with 23-year-olds in college playing with a metal bat?
And they're playing with sticks.
Yeah, it's very, and they're beating us. You know what I mean? Like, what are we doing? So yeah, but I think that gives credit back to parents too about putting our kids in situations to know success, to know where they see on a not just how good they are locally. How good am I in Brazil?
Yeah.
How good am I in playing against, you know, the best college athletes in the country? And I think that is parents. That I do think that was a very important job that we put him in a position to play against the best.
Yes.
I think the best money we spent as a family was when we would go on the tournaments and we took all the kids with us. We'd go in maybe a day early or stay a couple of days later so that we can enjoy some family time.
I agree.
I think that was probably the best money. You know, obviously you got to buy all the equipment and all the basketballs and the cones and training stuff and all that stuff. But I think if I could go back and take back some of the money, is when you are at a tournament and they ask you to buy all the trinkets.
Yeah.
All the trinkets, the T-shirts, the socks, and all of the new stuff that just came out because the vendors are there. There's a million vendors at the tournament.
Pressing T-shirts.
Yeah, pressing T-shirts.
Yeah.
All of that. If I could get back some of that money, I'd probably have close to $1 million.
Yes.
I have them all in a
that's probably
thing.
the worst
I keep
money.
saying I'm gonna get blankets made, but I haven't.
I keep telling them I have blankets made too, and I haven't done it.
I have so many tournament T-shirts or whatever. Yeah.
Well, for us, one specific thing is my husband got us a 24-foot RV van.
Oh, that's nice.
Oh, wow.
So what happened, we lived in Los Angeles, we lived in Pasadena, which is a suburb. So at 3 o'clock, I'd say 3 o'clock, I'm in that carpool lane in an RV van. Yes.
Oh, wow.
And every single time I slowly come up to the front, their classmates are like, oh, where are you going? Are you going camping? Are you going fishing? And I'm like, we're going to the parking lot. You know? So what would happen is from 3, I get them at 3, we get them a skating lesson down near Long Beach it takes an hour and a half. And we sit there from 4:30, someone has a skating lesson, someone has a stick handling lesson, and then someone has a team practice. And we don't get back till maybe 8:30. Wow. But within that time, you know, they're able to do their homework. They're able, you know, well, I'll use my George Foreman and cook them something. But and then it starts looking like I'm a food truck because all the other teammates are coming in going, oh, what are you serving today? But you know, I think with that it's just right. And it's kind of a way to kind of hone in on the organized chaos of the schedule and just like, okay, we got something to eat. We got you know, this is our home base, especially in hockey rinks. There's really nowhere to hang out and or it's too cold.
Yeah. Yes.
But that's what we ended up doing.
Well, that is a wrap. Our sincerest thank you to the moms for joining us and the historic Kessler Theater in Dallas for hosting. On behalf of our crew and everyone who helped make this possible, thank you for watching. I'm Jonah Javad, and we will see you next time on The Panel.